Adam McKinley, I got to thank you so much, you and your wonderful family, for this amazing journey that we went on. My martial arts journey out there, in Northern California, training at high altitude and really pressing the limits of what I thought I was capable of. And we're going to talk about all that in a little bit. How the hell are you today, man?
Good, man. Good. It's sun shining today. It's nice outside. Couldn't ask for more. So
It is a gorgeous day, dude, and speaking of gorgeous, like that environment where you live is absolutely incredible. Can you tell me a little bit about where that location is and what
yeah,
goes on
yeah.
there?
So I live in Pollock Pines, California. It's like we're really, really close, I would say, to like the Nevada border, within about 57 miles. So we're just kind of banking right at the tip of the mountains there. Just a gorgeous area in the northern part. Lots of trees, lots of pines, like you saw. And just lots of nature, man. Just really, really beautiful, really uplifting, almost spiritual in a sense.
Oh, it's very spiritual. Like, I can't wait to talk about the hikes and all the things that we went on. And you
Yeah,
get this kind of very magical, mystical sensation when you're doing some of
absolutely.
these things. Yeah, it's such a beautiful area. And, training at high altitude, I got to be honest with you, man, it didn't affect me too much. And I'll
Hmm.
tell people later why it did at certain points.
Right.
And I want to caution people that try this sort of thing to think about precautionary measures beforehand. But dude,
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate your beautiful family for taking me in and for everything
absolutely, man.
that you showed me, bro. This was an epic journey of epic proportions. So I want to talk about the beginning when I got there. I just
Sure.
love that we pretty much just went right in, like balls to the wall.
Yeah, like right away, man. It was just, I guess, we both felt like we were there for the same thing. So, you know,
The hybrid of your martial arts technique and style is amazing, and your teaching hybrid is just as amazing. Um,
thank you. Thank
it's,
you.
you're very welcome. The reason why I was able to learn so quickly is because you're an amazing instructor. Like, you would do things at a
Thank
slow
you.
pace. You work people, of course, man. You work people, and then you break it down and you look at the person and individualize, like you talked about. Like when we were
Sure.
training, like we had a group. If you talked about having a group of people, is that just having that one person, you really do give 100%. Can you tell me what your teaching style is like, and where does that come from, the inspiration?
You know what? I really don't have an inspiration for this. I guess I would just say that I kind of feel like when you have an independent student, versus 60 students, 50 students, 30 students, you just have that ability to really connect with them more, kind of find out what their little niches are and kind of find out where they need to be in this whole situation. I mean, everybody's independent, everybody's individual. And I think everybody learns very differently. And I think that that's huge in the martial arts. Just, you have this amalgamation of people and just these differences. And so I kind of just, I look at every single student that I take in once at a time as just a whole. And I kind of just work with that person, just seems like it works better that way.
Absolutely. And you have this amazing hybrid style. Okay. And it's an absolute hybrid. And I want to know, like, exactly what it is that made you decide to do that, which is fantastic, and how you formulated your own pretty much mixed martial art.
Um, I guess you could say, man, that I've just been, watching a lot of martial arts in the media, watching a lot of what people are doing nowadays, MMA versus traditional. And I kind of got the sense that it wasn't about getting away from one or the other, but kind of like molding them together. I feel like in a lot of senses, there's a lot of MMA guys out there. And no offense, but there's the traditional part of it's gone. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no traditional part. And I really feel like kind of molding these two styles together, this current style and this traditional style, is really, in essence, the best way of evolution in martial arts.
Yeah. That's
I
what
guess.
Mixed martial arts really is. It's just constantly evolving. That's fighting. And dude, there are so many things I want to talk about that were so
Sure, man.
amazing on my journey. Okay. And there is no favorite because everything was a favorite. It's like everything from the food to your
Oh man,
family to hanging with you, meditating, hiking. And we're going to go in all those places. But
sure.
the weapons, that I'm upset. I'm gonna go buy some like bamboo sticks and
Yeah, man.
knives.
Weapons training is another big thing for me. I think that that's like kind of a traditional martial arts sense, you know. I don't see a whole lot of guys anyway that I personally know that are like MMA guys, like kind of messing around with, you know, katanas and, you know, whatever not. But yeah, man, I just feel like that's really, you know, important too. And that kind of gravitates towards that traditional part of martial arts, you know, kind of trying to cover all boundaries, you know, all avenues.
Well, you know what the thing is too, as an instructor, and if anyone wants to learn from Adam, hit him up, you know, and he'll definitely be open-minded to what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to speak for you, Adam, but I mean, I know how you are. You're a great guy.
Sure.
You come from a great family.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know, and he's a great trainer. Like he's patient with you, the learning curve, like he understands everyone is different. And when I was out there, like, you know, he was very patient with me and understanding about like what I was capable of doing. And, you know, we pressed and I think we pressed each
Pushed
other.
hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we went at it, man. I would say, I mean, pretty much, I would say 80% of the time you were here, we just killed it, you know,
Mhm.
and went at it and we trained. And that's what I love, man. That's my love in my life. So
The only time we didn't is one night we had a wine night and
yeah,
his wonderful wife spoke about this. She's like, I think you guys, I'm like, I think we had a bottle of wine. She's like, no, I think you had three. And
yeah,
I woke up the next day and I texted Adam. I was like, bro, I'm gonna need a couple hours. Like I was hungover, man.
totally understandable. I mean, and that's a thing too. You're at the higher elevations and, you know,
Yeah.
you're not a wine drinker. And, you know, I mean, there's so many things that go into it, but I was totally understood of that. You know, I definitely had a little bit too much wine to drink that night too. So,
Well,
yeah,
it was a great time by the fire pit and the facilitation. And if you train with Adam, like that's the thing too. It's like it's a beautiful environment, a great family, you know, and you're eating, you're talking. And that's what I love about in between the sessions is that you could go hard for a little while and you sit down and you talk and you work on your mental focus on what it was that you were trying to achieve. And even
yeah.
for you, Adam, I got to say, like, you know, you're very humble in terms of the fact that how much you know how to do. And you're always asking me, I'm like, God, man, you know, that looks great. Like,
You know what? You know, again, I have a respect for everybody. And what I really, really like is when my students come in here, you know, I'd like to know what they think about it too, as well. And you being with your boxing experience and your MMA experience, you know, it's important to me to kind of understand what you thought about the whole process, you know, and that to me is like the most important part, you know, like what am I giving back here, you know, as a martial arts teacher, what separates me from other martial art teachers, and I think that's important, you know.
so much. I was achieving so much so fast because of your tutelage. And the thing is,
Thank you.
too, when I was absolutely thank you. And then when we were doing boxing and I showed you a couple things, and like
Yeah.
within seconds, you're just like, oh, like this then? Bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, okay, you know. All right, let's talk about hiking, how hiking
Yeah.
became a part of your training. And this is a big deal. So if we can we talk about the pipeline walk?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing the pipeline walk years ago by myself, and it's something that I kind of started doing to push myself. It's at high elevation, as you saw, and it's not entirely easy to get up on top of this really, really tall pipe and just traverse it, you know. And there's so many, like you said, there's those sectional areas on the pipe where you have to step over, and you know, there's so many things that are in the way, like tree branches and stuff like that. And that's all part of kind of like um, I mean, it's kind of like life, man. It's just like getting around, those big roadblocks, So, um, I started doing it, and I started seeing that it was really, really challenging. And it had to do with kind of, I guess you could say you just got to be in multiple places at multiple times with the mind. You're definitely kind of relying on different senses. And it just seemed like it would be a really good exercise to employ into my routine because I was really pushing my leg muscles. I love to kick, as you know. I was getting those, that really crazy exercise that I just wasn't getting from other things because I was just having to tighten so many other different muscles. Like you saw when we were walking on there, you have to stay really centered. You have to stay really balanced because literally it's just, you could literally fall over just by moving to the right a little bit. So it seemed like a perfect challenge. And when I got to the top, as I showed you, to the very, very top of the mountain for the first time, it was just epic and it was breathtaking. And it almost like felt like it was like meant to be, like it was there for the sacrifice of going through that exercise, So it was just a beautiful thing. And I thought, this would be a beautiful thing to employ into my training with other people, get them to get out here into the wild, experience what we experienced on the top of that mountain. I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking, right?
It's unreal. And I tell you what, guys, like the pipeline walk, and Sean Cannon knows about this.
Yeah.
Karate's bad boy certainly knows about this 3 times, which I want to talk about in a moment. There's a lot that I want to talk about in a moment. There's so much to unpack here, guys. Okay, so bear with us. There's a lot to unpack here. But when I did the pipeline, when I first got on, it was a little challenging to get, on there. And then once I started walking, you saw like how like I was very timid. I was very like, focused on just my maneuvering, and I was worried. I had fear. I had fear.
Absolutely. And that's an immediate fear. I mean, I think the very first time I got up there, it was an immediate fear. You're very high up. It's pretty high. I mean, as you saw, I mean, you're definitely within bone breaking distance of the ground, so it's something that you really need to kind of like take into consideration when you're doing that type of exercise. But like you said, you're very stiff at first and you're just trying to kind of gain your footing and gain your balance and try to, like I said, traverse this thing. And it's insane when we come to that part where there's the bridge and you literally have to really get down. And it's as you get further under the bridge, it kind of lowers on you. So like Sean Cannon, he knows that part well. It's one of those things where it really tests your leg muscles. And it's those dynamic leg muscles that you use for kicking. So it just kind of works perfectly,
Absolutely. And he did that in the snow, guys. Sean and Adam. And Adam actually runs this thing. How long is that pipe, bro? How long is that pipeline?
I would say it's probably from start to end, probably about 3 miles. And we were, I mean, so it's pretty insane. Like I said, when you got to that part where we kind of dipped and the pipe went down and then it starts to go back up, you're at like a really like steep elevation going up this pipe, and you're trying to gain your footing and you're just trying to balance. But at the same time, I mean, you're at this high elevation, so you're losing your breath and you're losing your oxygen very quickly when you're not used to this type of elevation. You don't live in this area. So it's just crazy, man. It's one of those challenges that really puts you through a test, makes you really have to multitask with your mind and with your body. And it really, what I love about it most is it gives you this ultimate self-trust of yourself. Like you got, this ability to just trust yourself while walking on it. It's just, it's life-changing, man. It really is.
You really have to, excuse me, be focused mentally the whole time. And that's what I love about it. And also premeditate, and it's crazy because once you get confident, like I was walking like very wide because I have a very wide walk, like I'm heavy legged.
Yeah.
And then I started walking like the DUI, if you will, like I was telling you, like, straight line, like 1 foot.
Walking the line, yeah.
And then I got comfortable and you're like, okay, this is where it's going to get really messed up, man. This is where it's going to be fucking super challenging.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we're going to descend. And then we're going to
go into a descent.
And this is where I was like, okay, You got to grab the nuts and guts. You got to
Yeah,
go, brother. I'm like, I'm not going to quit. And that's what I love is that, that sort of thing is that I want a challenge. And that's what martial arts really is. And then
sure.
when you get to that finish line, and when we got to the top of the mountain, you're up there meditating like off a cliff, and I'm like, you're nuts, but I love you. I'm like,
I just,
I'm
I
grabbing
guess
a tree, holding on like this. I'm too high. What were we, 4,000 feet?
we were at 4,200 feet.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is, I'm good.
Yeah, it was pretty hot.
I got through the pipe.
The first time I came to that cliff area where we were, I was really careful too about my footing, but I don't know, man. I've done it so many times now that you just sit there and you just really meditate on your imagery and what you're seeing in front of you. And like I said, it's a gift. It's the gifts that matter at the end of these huge exercises. You know what I'm saying? It's like the goal. It's the thing you achieve. You achieve it mentally and physically, but it's this beautiful epic scenery that you get to also achieve. And it's just, I mean, it really is, man. It just kind of changes you. It makes you kind of, change your aspects on life in general. It's really
It's a
breathtaking.
trophy. It's a trophy. And what happens is that when I got up to that mountain, because I doubted myself along that journey, and it's great for balance, it's great for mental focus, it's great for a
Mhm,
lot of things.
mhm.
And I have more confidence in my health, knock on wood, that I've ever had in my entire life. Like, I'm not gonna lie,
Wow.
like, dude, since I've been home, my sex has been even better.
That's always a good thing, man. I mean, good sex life, good healthy thing, man. But again, man, I really think that it was also just about the sensation of coming to this place and being able to just open up and really push yourself to that extreme, and you did, man. Like I got my hats off to you, man. When you were here, I mean, you were going at it hard, and just you were pushing yourself. You were doing the exact opposite that you were doing the first day you got here. Everything was just, it was like you 360'd. And it's the experience, man. And it's just being up here in the mountains, and it's that training with somebody that you can trust, somebody that that's going to have that ultimate confidence in you. I mean, there's just so many things going into play here, but I mean, it just works out, man.
Well, I mean, fighting in general or training, and whenever you have to like persevere through adversity,
Mm,
it's a metaphor for life. I mean, life
absolutely.
sucks, dude. Like, I mean, I'm a positive guy, but life's hard, especially nowadays. We know that. And if you
Absolutely.
have the intestinal fortitude to persevere through adversity, and that's what that pipe did for me. Okay. Like when
Oh,
I went and walked on that journey, I said to myself, you know what, you're 42. You
mhm.
have some bad habits, but geez, man, like not many people I know could do that.
No, 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 no. It's definitely not an easy task. I've had a lot of
No.
people like quit not even a quarter of the way through because it was just too much. And then, like you were saying, like Sean Kanan and I, we actually traversed it 3 different times, and we did it in the snow. So if you can imagine, and with you personally, because you can actually remember because you've done it, the snow makes this whole thing just a lot harder.
I couldn't
So
imagine.
it's just insane. So it's one of those things, man. Like I said, it's putting yourself in these situations where you're not comfortable, and it's learning to trust yourself. I think that that's such a huge part of martial arts, especially when you're trying to try application with moves, or in any sense. I mean, you've got to trust yourself, and you've got to trust that gut. And that's the biggest, most important thing I think about that walk, is just that self trust. Relying on yourself and knowing that you have it, pushing forward, and just the train, man, just going through anything.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is too. And then when we got home, we trained again, and then
Yeah.
went hard. And you showed me so many great things with weapons, and the spin kicks, which we're going to talk about in a
Oh yeah.
moment. But the second hike, the next day, which was I don't even know how many miles, that was a
Mm.
little bit more tranquil, like in terms of like
Oh
just
man.
calm. But then we had to go back up the mountain to get out, and I was like, oh shit, here
Yeah.
we go again. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, guys. Like if you're out there, definitely pace yourself on your steps, because your heart will accelerate, Your lungs
Yeah.
will fill up, and you
Hmm.
want to take, nice, easy strides. The beautiful part is when you get to the ground surface, is that you'll feel a little bit better, like the heart will come down.
Sure.
But
Sure.
it's really good for you. But that magical place we went to, first of all, let's talk about the creepy staircase.
Oh God. So I've never actually been on that trail we took. I was just like, let's just take this trail. I knew it existed, so we went for it. And we're coming across, like you said, and we're just kind of walking, and it's serene, nice water. There's trees, and we're looking at these valleys behind the trees, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like off the beaded path, like there's this crazy looking like staircase, right? And it's like we're looking down it, and it's like, where is this going? It's like going into nowhere, like, but it's a staircase, obviously, to bring somebody somewhere. And it's like you said, man, it looked like it was like one of those crazy, like Hansel and Gretel witch situations. Like, we better not go down there. And I definitely had like a crazy feeling. I was like, we're not going down there, man.
The funny thing is, when we walked by that thing, we both kind of like stopped a couple feet away, and we're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute. What the hell is this? And I almost want to go down there, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that,
Nah,
because we're going to
it
get
looked,
like witch raped or something. Like,
sure.
I'm not going to deal with that.
It's hilarious because it looked way too inviting to go to nowhere. And it was just like, nah.
But it's almost like they give you a warning too, like with the tree branches in front of the
Yeah.
stairs. It's like,
Yeah.
enter if you dare.
Yeah, I mean, it
Like that
was it
type
was
of
nuts. It was something out of a book, man. It was really crazy looking, just in the middle of nowhere, like this staircase going down, and it was just like, okay.
Oh man, it's crazy. But guys, it was a beautiful journey. We had lots of water to look at, and then we get to one of my favorite parts of the trip is that, and I love talking to you, of course, but we had a moment of silence, dude, when we got to that
Yeah.
top, and we just like sat, and I took in such a moment, and I connected with so many people. This is gonna sound very spiritual,
Mhm.
and I felt a gust of wind, and honestly, I'm getting choked up. I felt like spirits of yesteryear and today were
Mhm.
connecting with me, and I
Sure.
felt so like completed. Like, that's a beautiful place. Exactly where in California? Because I want people to go there, because that was
Sure.
amazing. Where exactly are you? What's that location?
So I'm at Pollock Pines, California. Um, Digits are 95726 in case anybody needs to know that. I don't know why, but and it's kind of it's off a beaded path. It's off a trail. It's next to an irrigation trail, and it kind of like walks, and it kind of, like you said, it wraps around the mountain, and it keeps going up to this what's called a heliport. And it's just this little port where helicopters, like emergency helicopters, could take off and on from. We definitely didn't go that far up, but we came, like I said, we came to that one spot where we're kind of crossing over the mountain, and then we came into this area with this. Remember the den of these trees, and it was just like you had to stop and you had to look at it because it was something I've never personally seen, and I've lived here most of my life. And it was breathtaking. It was gorgeous, and it had this really old and powerful feeling to it, man. So when we stopped, like you said, I definitely kind of just closed my eyes, and I just started breathing and just kind of letting the sun hit my face, and just kind of being one with the surrounding and the environment. And it sounds cheesy, and it sounds ridiculous, but I really, I agree with you. It was one of those moments where it's unexplainable, to be in the place that you're in, and it almost is unreal, and the wind, like you said, was really kind of just slowly hitting you, and you could just hear nature, man, and you could just see these epic parts of scenery in the middle of the forest. So it's really cool, man. I agree with you. It's a very spiritual thing. And again, man, like, me, I'm such a hippie when it comes to these things, but the spiritual part of martial arts is so very important, you know, knowing oneself, and really getting back to nature, and really getting back to the organics in life. It's just sad, as human beings, we've come so far technologically that we forget that there's this very beautiful, very amazing organic thing going on outside. So
It's crazy. Like, even me and my wife at lunch today, we were talking about, like what if this pandemic thing happened like when we were growing up, because
Yeah,
technology wasn't popping off. So you couldn't go to school online. You couldn't
sure,
like do things of that nature. Now I was like, that's a great subject matter that I want to meditate more on. And speaking of which,
sure.
we were just meditating and stuff like that. But I warned you before I went out that I was going to be a hippie as well. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I might
yeah,
just stop and look at a tree and be like, hey, Adam, let's just
yeah.
enjoy this tree for a little while.
And you know what?
you know?
Really, no matter like what background or path you come from, when you come
Jeez.
to this place, you're just enveloped by it. It's just, there's not a lot of places left in this country where it's just so organic, and it's just so natural. And you could literally walk 15 feet and you're in the national forest. It's amazing.
And you can adjust to the altitude, guys. The only complication I had training was just that maybe at some points I went too hard, or maybe I drank too much wine that night, like I talked about.
It
But I
happens.
feel great now. Like nothing is complicated, nothing at all. And, I feel really strong. And speaking about feeling strong, let's talk about a couple things you want to do. And I love these ideas. If you don't
Sure,
mind talking about them.
sure.
All right. Dojos, having your own system or your own like structure where you're bringing in people maybe individually
Hmm.
or in like a small group, because I know how you are. I know your mentality. Not to speak for you, what's your goal with like training people? Because I think you are a wonderful trainer.
Thank you. I guess that if I had a goal, it would be to show people that it doesn't have to be hard. That martial arts doesn't have to be hard. That learning martial arts doesn't have to be difficult. That there's an easier way to go about doing things. I think again, and I go back to the traditional sense. There was so much more looking into, like, for example, flexibility, and how you had to constantly push your body to these certain flexible states, and how it was important, because if you couldn't do that, then you weren't able to do these amazing feats. And I really stress that that's not the case, as you saw. It's really about the manipulation of your body, and it's about structure, and it's about mathematics. Again, when people come here, I stress to you, you're not at a martial arts school. You're in a martial science school. You are here to learn martial science. You're not here to learn martial arts. This isn't an art form. This is scientific. And I think that if I'm giving something to somebody, or giving it to anybody with my martial arts, it's to let them know that no matter what background you're from, or what physical part you are in your life, I can take you and I can help you get to the point to where you don't need to like rely on this thought that you can't, basically, like we were talking about. Like, there is no try, there is only do it. And so it's, again, man, it's just so important to me, I guess, that if I'm giving anything back, it's that this doesn't have to be hard, and that it's a beautiful thing, and it can be taken in so fast and so quickly. And that these multiple years of getting belts and paying these multiple checks to your local martial arts dojo when you're really not learning as much as you wish you could, that doesn't have to be the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't. Again, there's millions of martial arts teachers out there that are going to hate me after this podcast, because it's kind of like one of those secrets, like when you go to the mechanic and, oh, I'm bringing my car into the mechanic, and then suddenly, oh, well, you also have this problem and this problem and this problem. No nonsense. I mean, when people come here to learn from me, I want them to know that you're going to leave this place knowing you learned something. You're going to leave this place a different person. You're going to leave this place with that power that you felt here still with you when you were gone from here. That's just important to me, man. So again, it's definitely about giving back. Definitely about giving back to the earth, and just to people. I mean, I've done so many horrible things in my life, and I've had so many blessings. So I figure it's my time to do these things. So I don't know, man. I kind of feel like it's skewed. Martial arts today, martial arts dojos. You have these 30 students walking into these schools, and they're not learning anything, man. There's no one-on-one. It's just this routine, and routine is good. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, routine is good, but you have to have that interpersonal situation going on. it's really hard for a martial arts teacher when he's teaching 30 kids to really depend or rely on one kid and to give him, what you got. So that's why I'm very seldom in taking on multiple students at a time. I want to make it more like one of those elite type things where I'm taking on one person at a time so that I can focus on this person and I can develop this person. Because I'm not gonna be able to do these things if I'm trying to develop 30 people. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing I love is your consistency. When you show me how to do a maneuver, like you can honestly do that maneuver over and over again. And you talked to me about this, about how you'll be outside all
Mhm.
day fucking with Bob. By the way, guys, Bob is a punch dummy that had a terrible Easter weekend.
Oh, horrible, horrible Easter. He's really had a horrible year. Both of them have at this point. I mean, um they're barely kind of sticking together, as you saw. Bolts crushed out the back, and I mean, I've really beat them to hell. So
Dude, let's put it frankly, Bob got fucked up.
he did. He got hit hard this weekend. It was funny, man. And you know what? I did things this weekend that I've never done in my life.
Same
So
here.
it's crazy, man. We were really just going at it, and we were kind of taking the moments in, and it was awesome, man. I mean, I personally learned a lot of different stuff from you, but again, just kind of pushing myself while showing you this weekend. As you remember, my wife, threw this challenge out, and I had
Oh
to
yeah.
go ahead and go through with it. But we killed it, man. We killed it.
Yeah, we definitely killed it, and we definitely killed Bob. And it's great about your instruction is that you told me something, and everyone has a different learning curve. But
Sure.
you told me something about force and movement, and I was
Hmm.
obsessed with knocking Bob down. You told me one
Sure.
thing that just clicked that light bulb. That's why you're a great instructor.
Thank
I
you.
was like, okay, yes, man. I understand balance and like the physics and mechanics. A lot of people will just tell you just to do this and do that. But
Hmm.
you break it down and you actually have a discussion about it. And
Hmm.
so, if people are normal people and they have a good attention span, like this method will work for you, Uh, speaking of methods and mixed martial arts, I'm going to go here if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure.
Do you want to compete?
I do. I think it's time. Been kind of looking around and talking to some people, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. And, within the next 6 months, try to regain whatever balance I need to, and I'm just going to go at it, man. I really feel like this is something I've wanted my whole life, and it's more of like a personal challenge for myself. Not doing it for money or interest of other people, but just kind of want to get out there and I want to push myself. I've never really fought at a amateur pro basis, so I think it would be interesting. And I mean, taking my martial arts where I am taking it now versus where I learned it when I was younger, it's just a completely different game. And I kind of I'm looking at things a lot differently, in a sense that I feel like I'm capable of this. So yeah, definitely, I'm looking into it.
I don't want to give any of your secrets away, but
Sure.
I know that you are very versatile and you have a hybrid again, like we were talking about.
Yeah,
So I guess that was a spoiler alert early. I
that's
think
all
what you
right.
could bring to the MMA game is something entirely different than we've ever seen.
Hmm.
Um, so, all right. So I am gonna blow one thing up. Let's
Yeah,
talk
go
about
do it.
these spin
Do it.
kicks, these
Okay.
spinning jump kicks. How do you get? How does that happen? Like, how do you do that?
So for a long time, man, it was a huge struggle for me when I was younger, obviously. And like I said, we'd watch these '80s films, and I'd always watch Van Damme, and I'd always be like, man, I just want to do these kicks that he's doing, these epic, crazy, aerial, flying through the air like an eagle kick. And um, I guess that when it really started clicking for me, and this might not work for anybody else, or it might not work for a different individual, but what really started clicking with me is I can always remember my dad. My dad, when I was in little league, he'd always say, "Keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball." And what that really means, it's like you really got to keep your eye on the ball if you're going to hit it. You're going to stay out of the way of it, and do whatever. Um, and so I guess that it's definitely about imagery for me. When I'm doing a kick, like an aerial kick, like a 360 or a back spinning kick. It's definitely ingrained in my mind. And like you saw, I can definitely call my kick. If I'm going to hit in the sternum, I'm going to hit in the sternum. If I'm going to hit in the throat, I'm going to hit in the throat, face, whatever. But I think what's important, it's the visualization, first of all. And it's just, again, it kind of falls back into also that trust that you would gain on your pipeline walk, that self-trust. But it's really that one simple thing for me was just keeping my eye on the ball. So it's funny when I'm doing a kick and there's that moment where you're obviously not looking at your opponent or the thing or the object that's in front of you that you're trying to kick. You just kind of keep it balanced. You know where it is. And kind of, again, it takes a lot of self-trust and takes a lot of focus. I guess your best bet in that situation would really just kind of hone your senses, and kind of, again, rely on yourself. Martial arts is self-expression, and Bruce Lee was big on this type of thing. And I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee because he gave so much to the martial arts world in so many different ways. And I don't think that people realize that he's really kind of one of the grandfathers of this whole MMA game that we got going on. He broke tradition and kind of, learned multiple styles, and it kind of suited him as an individual. What's really interesting is Bruce Lee's style will never work as good as it did for him, for anybody else, because it was just this individual thing. And again, I think that that's really important, that if I teach somebody, I don't mind that they go to other places to learn, because I think it's important to take everything. To be a well-grounded fighter means that you've learned multiple styles, that you've tried to understand multiple type of traditions. So it's just really important that people really think outside the box with martial arts, man. Not be grounded, again, by tradition, and to go out there and push yourself, and really, again, self-expression is everything, and everything that we do. We see it with all these fighters nowadays. And nowadays, they all have this one thing about them that kind of makes them different. And it's that self-expression and fire that you're seeing. That's the difference.
That's MMA, man. And that's just evolution. And, you talked about Bruce Lee. I feel the same about, I love Bruce Lee. So I certainly feel the same about him. Muhammad Ali in boxing. Like, nobody could box like that. I mean, that's not, if you look at what Muhammad Ali did, guys, let's face facts. It's not the traditional way to box,
No.
But he made it work because of athleticism and because of determination. And that's what I love about the journey I had with you, is that you get determined. But I want people to know that if they ever do a journey with you, is that they're going to be safe, because you're a very nurturing person. Like, you're like, yo, bro, have some granola bars, have some water.
Sure.
Let's go over here. Are you all right? You always kept checking on me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
That, in my personal opinion, also allows the individual to grow himself and develop, because who develops in a really uncomfortable situation? And how many uncomfortable situations have there been out there in a martial arts sense, when a student walks in and he's with 30 other students and he gets pulled out for no reason or yelled at or blah, blah, blah. Again, man, it's about so many other things than just walking in there. It's about how you feel. It's about how he feels. It's really got to all click and go together. It's got to be that yin and yang. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm very about individual training with individual people, because everybody's different. Everybody's going to have a different approach. Everybody's going to have a different approach as far as I can do this and I can't. And that allows me to kind of figure out where they need to work, and that's perfect, and I think that taking your time and making people understand that this is definitely a work in progress. And again, I always tell people this: it's not about the beginning and it's not about the end. It's about the journey in the center. And it's always about the journey, man. It's funny. So many times in my life, I'm trying to push and go, I want to get to the ending. I want to get to the ending. It was never about getting to the ending. It was about how hard I worked to get to the ending. And I think that that's really important on both sides, being a student and being a teacher, So
I could not agree more, man. The point of a journey, that's everything,
it's
just to keep going, excuse me. Rush had a great lyric in one of their songs where they said the point of a journey is not to arrive.
Right.
Now, honestly, if you're on a plane or a train or a car, you
Sure.
probably want to arrive. But
Sure.
like it's a metaphorical, thought of you're always forward progressing. You're being a progressive forward thinker. And that's
Absolutely.
what I love about your style. And even when we were doing boxing, like you just want to learn more about that. You want to learn more
I
about torque, and you adapted it to your martial arts.
and it's so important that people again understand that this isn't, it's not okay. I'm not going to say like you don't need to go to a martial arts school for years and years and years to experience something, because I think it's important to definitely have that knowledge. I've been doing this thing for 20 years, so I believe that it definitely has that sense, but I just don't believe that it has to be so long drawn out. It can be explained in such an easy situation, an easy format. Everybody's different, like I said, so everybody needs to hear it differently, and you need to, again, as you could see, man, I'm all about crazy examples. Like I have these like really crazy, weird examples that I kind of relate them to, but they make sense to people. And that's what I want people to realize is this is definitely a game that you got to give your all. And it's something that you really got to put your heart in, but in no mind and in no reason, it shouldn't take like a million years to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, absolutely. And we had shared crazy a metaphor, especially wine night, about like, but they made sense when I think about it. The next day I woke up, I'm like, even though, it might have been a little, tipsy or whatever, I'm like, these metaphors made sense and whatnot. But I tell you what made great sense is the stick fighting and all the stuff we were doing, bro. Like,
Oh,
I
man, it was great.
love looking at that footage. I have so much other footage I want to share with you. Your nunchuck work, all the weapons,
Thank you.
just incredible. And people, please, like, follow Adam everywhere he's at. I mean,
Thank you.
dude, it's what an experience. But we're gonna switch gears.
Sure.
Today, I watched Pine Barrens
Oh
for
man,
like the 50,000th
classic,
time.
classic. I
Sopranos,
actually,
Pine Barrens.
I actually was so funny. We talked about it so much yesterday. Um,
We wanted to
I
do so much stuff. It was so hard to fit it all in.
I
Yeah.
was, I was, I was, I was, I was watching it, and it was just so funny, kind of going through it again. And what's so great about that show is you miss so many little things that are said, because you're kind of just like kind of taking everything in. And it was like that part about that Marshall McClintock part in The Sopranos, where it like didn't make any sense, and why was it said, and what did it mean? Um, and that's what I love about that show is you could watch it a million times, but you see something new every single time you watch it, because it's like a funny, phrase, or somebody does something hilarious, or, whatever. It's just that show again, man, is the most epic show ever. And it touches down on so many realities, religious and spiritual, and, normal problems versus not normal problems. And it's crazy, man. Such a
It
good show.
it is the best show in my opinion of all time. Supremely acted, great writing, directing, casting, and
Yeah.
about Pine Barrens. Like I had Steve Sharippa on my show, great guy.
Yeah.
I consider him a friend, great guy. And do you know that when he came in, like before they went out to go find Christopher and Paulie Walnuts, is that you saw when he came in with like camouflage and like looking all like
Yeah.
hunting gear? So they told, and he shared this on my show, and he shared this in other shows as well. But somehow I did not know this, right? Until I heard it on my show, and I was blown away. Is that when Steve came in the room, James Gandolfini said, before you come in, I want to get a reaction of laughter because you're supposed to look silly. So I
Right.
want you to shock me. I want you to shock me. And
Mm.
Steve comes in the room with his pants down with a dildo on or something. Like,
Oh my God.
and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I was cracking up. I'm like, so homeboy's just rocking the dildo, pants on, pants off, whatever the hell it is, wax on,
Just to
wax
get
off.
the reaction out of
But
Gandolfini.
and that's why it's so genuine. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff was real,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what makes it because you feel like Janice is Janice and Bobby Bacala's Bobby Bacala and whoever's whoever. Like
Right.
you feel a certain. I don't think there was any miscasting at all.
Man. And every one of the characters are necessary. They all have their necessities, and they all have but they're all necessary. Like every one of them. I don't think that they miscasted anything. What a great show. And every person they chose, they did such a good job at playing. Like we were saying, Polly Walnuts, what an amazing person. How could you not pick him for that part? I mean, he's just, and you know what's funny is he's almost really like that in life. I've
They
talked to so many
say.
people that are like, this guy doesn't break the character. This is how he acts and this is how he is. So again, there's really good casting out there, man. Like just they pick the perfect people for it.
My favorite scene, I got so many Paulie Walnut scenes, but the one is with the snakes and how they could literally go fuck themselves. And when he
Oh
says,
yeah,
T, snakes been fucking themselves long before Adam and Eve.
yeah. Just
Who writes that?
and you know what? It's crazy stuff, but it all makes sense, you know. And it's all kind of just like it's got its place, and that's what I loved about that show the most. Is there was never a scene that I disliked. I can never remember like one of those episodes that I disliked. Every one of them were so good. Like yesterday, dude, I watched the Bavalakwa one, where like that kid, like they shoot Christopher, and then like they kind of go on the run, and you know they found him, and he's like sitting. They got him in the chair, and he offers him the soda, and he's like, "Thanks," you know, and it's like a sugar-free soda, and then he's just like, "Because this is the last time you're ever gonna have one of these sodas." Boom, 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 boom. It's just the emotions.
That's great acting there, you
It's
know.
just like up and down, and it's like those are the
Yeah.
shows that drag you in, man.
Because you know the tension. That's what they do too. Is like some people say it's slow paced. I love the Melfi like therapy sessions. I think they're
Oh
great.
yeah,
You know,
oh
like
yeah.
I appreciate them. And then, but when it builds, like for example, like a similar scenario is when they kill Big Pussy. Like
Oh yeah.
that's built up, and that's like they fucked with that. They fucked with your emotions for a long
Mhm.
time, and when you finally get to that point, you know, you're thinking like, all right, are they gonna let him off the they're not gonna let him off the hook, man. They
And they're
gotta
not. What's so
yeah.
crazy is with his character personally, I really didn't like it because of what he was doing, and he was kind of like narking
Oh,
everybody
he's a
off.
rat. He's a
But
rat,
at the
yeah.
last moment when he's on that boat, you can really tell that none of those guys wants to be there. Like they're his friend. They grew up with that guy. They
Silvio's
don't.
crying. When have
Yeah,
you
like
ever
they
seen
don't.
Silvio show that emotion before in the
Well,
past?
and there's
Yep.
conflict between the other guys that are there to shoot him. Like they're all mad at each other, and it's like because it's probably one of the hardest things that any of them has ever had to do, you know. So it's a very emotional part, and there's that second of you. No matter how much of a rat he is, you're like you
You
want them to
feel
kind of like
bad. You feel
you
yeah,
feel
it
it, and
hurts.
he's sitting there, and but then you remember the guy's so full of shit, you know, and it's just
Yeah.
like it's one of the, again, it's one of those shows that just up and down with emotions, man.
It does make you emotional. So does a lot of shows that we know, and we're gonna keep a gag order on certain things about
Oh yeah,
certain ones that we like. But we obviously love martial arts. Hint,
yeah.
and so for me lately, I've been watching a lot of martial arts films. I'm gonna go back to a couple today, and I'm gonna check out. I'm gonna go back to the Chinese Connection, bro. Like
Yeah, man. You
it
know,
was a
definitely like
fucking amazing movie.
I love watching old Bruce Lee flicks, man. Really just watching that guy work it, man, and kind of just show that he had something again to bring to the table that nobody else had. You had other people filming martial art type cinema, but he really when he came on the show, man, it was like he had something that nobody else did. He understood martial arts again, I think, from a scientific point of view. He was no longer there for the art form, he was there for the science of it, you know, and he really wanted to develop what he had. And I think that that's what Jeet Kune Do is just this developmental thing that he created, you know, and it was he got to where he was comfortable kind of branching out, but just bringing everything in. And his style back then, I mean, it was untouchable. There were so many people like Donino Santo, all these guys, like, you know, no matter how cocky this guy was, like he was the shit. Like this guy was the real deal. And he had something to give, you know. And there's so many people out there, you know, they'll question, you know, that he was never in a real fight or, you know, none of that really matters to me. What matters to me most is that today we're utilizing this man's theories. As martial artists, I'm still reading the Tao of Jeet Kune Do constantly and refraining from other books because what I love about that book is it's the ability to ascend and to develop and kind of evolve. And I think, again, martial arts is worthless without the evolution. You have so many styles out there, and not bad naming any styles, but like we had a couple of these conversations where you have these masters, man, that have been masters for like 30 something, 40 something years with like these crazy lineages that go back hundreds of years. And you have these like MMA guys coming in that have had like 5 years experience and just like BJJ and like multiple other styles, but they're killing these masters. They're not just hurting them, they're beating them down. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
I can't think of the guy's name. I wish I could, because I was going to show you this video. But there was this guy, this mixed martial artist that was in China. He was actually kicked out of their country because he like dishonored all of these like supreme high masters of like these different like kung fu styles. And man, he wasn't just like beating these guys, like he was mopping the floor with like the most respected current martial art instructors in China. And again, it's that breaking away from tradition that allowed him to do that. It was you have so many styles that are so bedridden into this tradition, and the focus is to stay within the tradition, because if you don't, you'll lose everything. And that's really not the case, man. It's when you open your eyes and you open your mind to all the other things out there. Like I said, to me, martial arts is like a buffet. You're from Vegas. I lived in Reno.
Yeah, I love buffets. I miss them.
You have like 50 of these just like dishes out, and you could pick and choose from whichever one. And, again, sometimes, I'll look at something, I'll be like, you know what, I'm not going to try that because it kind of looks nasty, or I'm not going to do this. And so many times in my life, I've had it where my wife will come up to me and she'll be like, here, try this. And it's something I would have just totally looked at and been like, puke, but I freaking love it. And I enjoy it, and I take it in, and it's something that kind of gives you a different taste and a different feel for things, and accentuates different things, taste buds in your mouth. That's very much like the martial arts, man. It's a buffet situation. You go in and you pick and choose these martial arts styles that are going to be good for you as an independent person. This isn't anybody else's journey. It's your journey, man.
I love that, because I feel the same way about, martial arts as well, but also with music. It's like, people are like, you're a good drummer. I'm like, I'm only a good drummer because I play reggae, rap, hip hop, funk, punk, metal, rock, anything.
And that makes you, and let me ask you, as a musician that's been doing this for so many years, it makes you a better musician. To have played these different styles of music, because it allows you to kind of push yourself and understand music at different variances. That's like the martial arts, man. Music is a perfect equated thing to the martial arts. If you agree, there's so many similarities,
rhythm,
like I said, rhythm, and just the choosing, and the going out there and kind of taking what we're going to take and make it good for yourself. Again, I always urge all of my students, if they want to go elsewhere to learn, I'm like all about it, dude, because I wanted to go other places and learn. I wanted to break free from the mold. The reason I'm doing this is because I broke from the mold.
When you showed me weapon training, especially with the sticks, when you did like the whole, like, I'm like, okay, so immediately I'm thinking like a drummer. So I'm like, but now I got to break through two Bob's faces, and then I'm like, I'm going to do that, because like, that's the thing. If you're going to like train with the way of the fist, and fear does not exist in this dojo. Pain does not exist in this dojo. Defeat does not exist. You got to go in, but you got to be careful, but you got to go in. So I was like, okay, I got to go through both Bobs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And out of those three you just said, it's that defeat doesn't exist. There is no defeat. And that's what I love about people coming to me individually and independently. You're not going to feel defeated here. There is no defeat. You're going to feel uplifted. You're going to ascend, and you're going to become a better person in every avenue. Like I said, when we were talking about martial arts, I try to apply martial arts to my whole life, every single day. Consciously, being perfect and watching what I say, watching what I do, just trying to be conscious of the things that I kind of take for granted every day. I think that really makes us better martial artists, man, when we can be very conscious of our surroundings, our environment, and who we're talking to, and kind of manipulate it. And for once, actually be careful of what we're doing instead of kind of just running through life, you know?
Martial science, guys. This is
Yeah.
what Adam McKinley is doing. It's called martial science, and I think it's amazing. If people are that are listening are boxing fans of sweet science, well, this is martial science, and it really is. And what I love again is that we work in small doses, but when you
Mhm.
work in those small doses, you work hard, and then you
Yeah,
meditate and conversate about,
absolutely.
yep,
And
what it is
the
you did.
conver the conversation is everything. So one
Yes,
thing that I
sir.
like to employ with my students is like you said, we'll do some training and then we're going to sit and we're going to talk about it, you know,
Hmm.
because it's so important to understand it both physically and mentally. So many people walking into these situations only understand it one or the other way. You want to understand it both ways, you know, and you really want to grasp the teaching. You know, you really want to take it in. And again, this is kind of why I strayed away from taking on 30 students or doing what most guys do and opening my own dojo. Instead, I kind of opened the facility at my home and I allow my students to come in so that I can actually really focus on them as an individual. This is why I believe people are able to come here and learn so quickly because, again, it's this individual focus and it's this understanding. And it breaks the chains on everything you've ever felt and thought about. Like, you know, when you first came here, you were punching and kicking in such a different way. When you left here, it was crazy. You were totally a different person. The way you were punching, the way you were kicking, and the way that you were understanding force meets speed meets impact. That's so important, man. And getting a feel, you know, punches again, Bruce Lee said this, you know, punches aren't just punches, kicks aren't just kicks. It's so true in so many different ways, man. It's the manipulation of it. It's the body mechanics. It's the focus, and there's so much equated into it, man. And it just you have to bring your mind to a certain place before you do every move. And that's the only way to really like, you know, do it. And it's all got to be working together as one. Kind of like the strikes we were doing. You know, if you're going to strike the way we were doing, you're not going to look at the difference in individual strikes, especially if it's all doing the same thing, if it's going for that same purpose, like you learned with the sticks or like you learned with those certain punches that we were doing. Um, Everything is everything, you know, and there's no stopping, there's no indifference in between these movements. It's just it's you and it's the self-expression. And I think you saw that, you know, it's like something's hidden in every single one of us that just is waiting to be unleashed. And it's just about the way that you manipulate that and you focus on the person and you allow that person to really again self-express, you know.
The mind will put the practice into fruition. The body
Yeah,
will respond. That's
yeah.
how I feel, you know, like, and I thank you for those great kind words. And because the thing is, I have trust with you, and
Mhm.
you know, not because I've had martial arts background or boxing background,
Sure.
combat sports background. It's just I believed in what you were doing because, or what you are continually doing, I should say, because I could see like real recognizes real. I'm like, this is no bullshit here, guys. Like Adam,
It's
like when you
for
see
me,
his videos, there's no editing, there is no bullshit. Like
that's true.
this is who he is. Like this is what he's capable of. And God forbid if you ever get nailed with anything that this man has to offer. You know, I do this, even though I'm a Buddhist, but
Covering all
I'm gonna give
areas.
you the sign of the cross,
You know
even
what,
though
man?
I'm gonna pray for you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And you know what's so funny? Again, it makes me think about so many things in life where there's a lot of talk and not enough show. And I think that that's what you saw when you were here is it was the action, and it wasn't just me talking about it. It was this you were seeing it and you were actually taking it in. So those two things are definitely apparent. And there's something that need to be together while you train somebody. You know.
Yes, sir. It's real deal, guys. Like, I mean, you know, if you want to train with Adam at any point in time or just like pick up martial arts, I encourage that. But no, like pace yourself. If you're a beginner, especially, that you got to be very careful depending on your age, of course. Um, and then also if you have some experience, like, you know, this is a different experience, but a great experience because it's a hybrid
Yeah.
martial science.
Yeah, and it's just again, it's I think that it's It's really important today. And I think that if people start looking at this from a scientific aspect more than a martial art, they're going to get a lot more from it, kind of, again, picking and choosing, like I said, going to the buffet, but leaving behind the things that aren't going to be efficient, leaving behind the things that aren't going to be effective. There's so many, again, and this isn't to no offense of any personal style. I'm not even going to name one, but it's just, there's a lot of just mishmash of worthlessness going on that I see in a lot of these dojos that, if anything, you're going to get killed because you're employing these techniques that they're showing you. And I really cringe, when I see a lot of these McDojos and a lot of these places kind of trying to show these techniques that are really going to get you killed in a street situation or in a situation where you're needing to seriously defend yourself. That's the worst thing in the world for me, is to see people have to go through that, spend money to do that, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for multiple years, only to get to the point to where you realize I can't actually defend myself. And all this stuff that I learned, it did nothing for me. And that's what I want to stray from. And that's kind of why I decided to do this, because it doesn't have to be that way.
I say this all the time. It's about self-defense. That's what martial arts is supposed
Yeah.
to be about, and balance. And when you're paying for something, number one, that's always an issue right over here now.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
outside of that, it's like, I have my stepdaughter in some martial arts academies, and I'm not trying to be like an asshole, because I know a lot about like combat sports. I've been around
Mhm.
gyms and dojos and stuff. So I'm like looking, I'm like, they're not doing this the right way, like
No, they're not. And in a
not
lot
at
of
all.
cases, and again, this isn't to no offense to anybody else, but I see at least 60 to 70% of these so-called traditional McDojo or dojo, whatever you want to call them, these martial arts, and they're just kind of giving these belts away. It's like I told you, it's not so much about how much you've learned, but how much money you've paid. And I swear,
That's
like
why I'm
a lot
doing
of these
this with
guys,
my
they
fingers.
must
Yep.
they must have this list. It's disgusting, but they must have this list where, okay, they paid this much, so now it's time for their yellow belt. And that's ridiculous to me, man.
You pay to belt. That's all
Belt
it is. It's like
belts
with music, pay to play. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you want to play a show here and get some exposure on the
right,
undercard or underbilling of a
right,
act here. Throw us a couple $100 and we'll throw you a bone and give you like a 20-minute set that we're gonna make it really 5
right,
minutes.
right. And it's
Like,
sad and pathetic, because
terrible.
a lot of these people really believe that they're learning legitimate martial arts when they're not really learning anything that's going to really defend them against anybody. And that's just the biggest pet peeve of mine, is these guys are literally just kind of, it's, again, they have this like list, and they're like, oh, it's time for this belt, it's time for this belt, they've paid this much, and because they paid for advance, I'm going to make them happy by giving them a belt. That just defeats the purpose of martial arts in general, and kind of just like, I'm sorry, shits on the whole belting format.
No, curse, throw it out there.
It's
It's
like
the
it's ridiculous.
absolute
And
truth.
I think, again, belts. I really stray from belts, as you saw. Like I'm like a merit badge kind of guy. Like I think that
Belts don't mean shit.
they don't, man. And it's so funny. I've seen so many situations personally at so many different schools, because I've attended that many martial art or different types of styles, where these guys, they have these, black belt, second degree, third degree. And man, you know what? They'll have these new guys come in off the street one day, no belt at all, no experience whatsoever, and they'll trash these guys. I mean, obliterate these guys. And these guys are trying to learn, or they're trying to rely on these techniques that are just worthless and inefficient, techniques that really don't have anything to show for anything. And it's sad. There's this division in martial arts, like I said, and I'm trying to like reunite that division of traditional versus MMA or modern, whatever you want to call it. Because these groups of people in between. They're like, oh, anything traditional's got to be McDojo-ish, and that's not always the case. In a lot of cases, I've been to a lot of traditional schools where you can learn a lot of things, but I also agree in the sense that, why are you teaching me this when I can't use this, when it's not going to really protect me? Like, again, I love codiforms. I have no issue with codiforms. I think they're great. I think that they keep you healthy and balanced. But for me, man, they're not going to help you in a fight if you bust out with some Shotokan karate kata that you were taught, or whatever karate you're in. That's not meant for karate. So there's this indifference in what you're being taught, and the whole thing is just kind of a sham, you know. So that's, again, it just goes back to why I'm doing this, because I feel like I owe it to the world to show them, number one, that you should be learning something that's efficient and effective. You shouldn't be learning these things from people when they're not going to help you in these situations. We get into self-defense classes to learn self-defense, not to learn magical moves that don't exist, or one-touch masters showing us these fake examples. I mean, it's so important, man, that you take from both traditional and modern, and that you only take the efficient parts, and only the parts that's going to work for you independently as an individual. That is what true martial arts is about. That is really, truthfully, to me, what being a true martial artist is understanding that that's the case. You know, coming to terms with the fact that I can take some really amazing stuff from the tradition, some really, really good stuff from this MMA, mold it together and make it amazing.
And that's what you do every single time. Like, whenever I make a suggestion, or, you know, whenever I saw anyone make a suggestion around you, like, you're like, well, how do I make this happen? You know, how do I take this and make this work with that? And,
Sure.
you know, certain kicks or punches, or kicks and punches in combination, and you don't hesitate. Like, that's what I love, is that you go in and you're formulating your own science. Like, really,
Yeah.
like you're like a mad scientist of karate right now. Like, you know, like, you're putting together some great stuff. And, you know, mad in a great sense is because you don't stop. Like, and I don't understand how you do it. Like, you just keep going. And then, like, you'll keep working and working. And I'm looking at things from afar, and I'm like, dude, Adam looks amazing right now in terms of, like, the way he's kicking and positioning. And then you're like, no, I want to do it again. I gotta keep working. I'm like, okay.
And that's the
That's how I
thing,
am
man,
with
is
music,
like,
though.
and a lot of people, you know, again, a lot of people might look at that as like an OCD thing, and I'm definitely OCD, but I kind of feel like
Ain't
if I'm
nothing
not
wrong
doing,
with that. Ain't nothing
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
with that.
and I just kind of feel like if I'm not doing my absolute best, I'm not doing it. You know, it's like, it's kind of funny. Like I told you, there's so many times where I'll go out, you know, I'll make a video, or I'll do something, and I'm on that video watching it a million times before I post
Yeah.
it, because I'm trying not to, you know, it's not that I'm trying to like edit it. It's I want to learn from my positioning and my movement. It's so easy for a fighter to go out and tape himself and then to watch himself. And if you stand back as a person, as a totally different person from different eyes, you get this different understanding. And so it helps you develop your skills. You know, it's really important that people, again, record themselves so that they can learn from their mistakes. Otherwise, you think you're doing it right and you're not, and everybody's seeing it like they're seeing it, and you're seeing it like you're seeing it, and it's non-collaborative. So
Yeah, I mean, record yourself for sure. You know, I do it when I'm doing drums. Obviously, I go back and critique over and over. When I do boxing, and when we did the martial arts out there, we posted some great videos, guys. Please check
sure.
them out. Like, they were pretty rock and roll, like, literally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but you pick up things, like, even though, like, you're sitting there and you're liking your own stuff, kind of thing. Like, you're like, oh man, this looks great. But then you're also always thinking, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that I recommend to people, is that even though you think you could be great, you could always be better.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
evolution.
And then, you know, again, like you saw, we were talking on the pipe, pushing yourself, you know,
Mhm.
defeating your fears, realizing that that fear doesn't exist for any other person in the world, just inside of you, you know. So it's this chemical creation. It's just, again, when you've overcome these events in your life that have impacted you and held you back, it's like you can achieve anything. And that's the type of attitude I want every student to have. You know, I want them to push themselves to see that they're better than they thought they were. You came in, and it's not like I had worked with you but a day, and you pushed yourself through something. And it was more the realization that you pushed yourself through this event that changed your life, because you weren't ever doing it before. You know, and again, it's those moments that build us and that help us become better in every aspect of life.
It's what life's all about. You got to trudge through. And, you know, for me, it's like, I love the aspect of fighting, not personally in terms of hurting somebody.
Right.
I like facing fears, like you were talking about,
Yeah,
like
absolutely. And
adversity
you know
and
what?
challenging myself.
I hate fighting. You know, when I was young,
I don't like fighting at all. Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. You asked me earlier, if I wanted to take this to a higher level. And again, my wanting to do this is to push myself yet again, to put myself in the situation where I would feel that personal fear. Because let's face it, what fighter doesn't feel that fear? But it's controlling that fear, making that fear work for you, that makes you a better person, a better fighter, and it gives you a better experience, helps you manipulate your skills better. It does everything better. Again, it's all about conquering yourself. It's all about pushing yourself towards those challenges. Again, in my whole life, all the years I've done martial arts, I've never done one spin kick. And while I did that spin kick, kicked two different bobs or two different objects at once with the same kick. I've never done that. And I did that while you were here. And I think what that does is it just goes to show that it's that constant pushing yourself.
We pushed ourselves. Yes.
And also we have these inner challenges that we know we have to face. And I'm one of the first to say I never want to face those inner challenges, but I evolve when I face those inner challenges. It's like something amazing happens inside of me, and I'm able to look at things differently forever. And it's like those are the moments that really impact people. Those are the moments that really give you that power and that inner strength to push forward. And again, I don't know about you, but it was amazing seeing you overcome this thing. And like you were like when we finished that pipe, you were like a different person. When we walked on the side and you looked at it from the ground and you saw what we were doing, and again, you're looking from somebody else's eyes. It's insanity what you did. And again, you did this without any prior training. So again, you did this. So really and truthfully, like as a teacher, I'm just allowing you to realize that you can, like that's it.
I got a lot of passion, and it's your belief in me. And yes, like you're absolutely correct. It's funny that you saw that. I did have a moment where I looked at the pipe and I was like, wow, I just did that. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
And people like, I'll send you photos if you want to see them, listeners, or you could just go on my Instagram or Facebook. But it was not easy to get through.
Oh,
And I'm 42 years old. I have some habits that I would like to course correct, but at the end of the day, I still got through my adversities. I still got through
right.
my fears, like we were talking about. And that's
that
the
built
thing.
you up. That gave
Oh,
you
you
this.
saw the change in me. Yeah.
It did, man. And
Yeah.
like you were ready to face anything after
Yeah.
that. And you
Totally
were
different after that.
Every situation. And again, that's why we always start with this. When I train people, I start with that whole walk, because it's that ability to know that you can now trust yourself. It's that ability to know that, hey, I conquered this. I've already conquered one thing. I can conquer anything. People need to have that drive and that focus and that desire to conquer what we're doing.
Yep. And that's exactly what it is. So definitely trust Adam with his tutelage with this. It's a great accomplishment to go through. It's all about balance and concentration. In my opinion, this is my experience, and focus and determination, and that'll get you through it. And, again, you're absolutely correct. And I get choked up thinking about it, is that when I got through that, I was very, very surprised. And you're right. It changed me. I have not been the same person since then, like in a better way.
And what it did is it allowed you, first of all, to realize that even before you come to see me, you had that within you.
Yep.
All I did was help you release something you already have.
I got it out.
And it's like, and that's what I want people to realize is anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be drawn out for years and years and years. In fact, it doesn't have to be drawn out for half the amount that I see people drawing it out. It's very easy when you have somebody explaining it and giving you really good examples. Again, it's all about perspective. It's all about understanding, but mostly it's about understanding that you can. And it sounds so stupid. It sounds so ridiculous, but it's literally, again, I can will do a lot for a person. I can will make a person ascend. I can't, you'll go nowhere. If you constantly I can't yourself, you'll never do it.
My
You know?
homeboy Chris Bird, two-time heavyweight champion of the world,
Yeah, of
also,
course.
inspired me so much. One life, live it. You
Yeah.
got one.
And you have to.
You got
And
to
you have
live
to
it.
push yourself. You have to push yourself, and you have to, again, again, sounds ridiculous, but I'm on that warrior path, man. Like I want to push myself as far as I possibly can, even if
Yes.
it kills me, then I'll know I can die knowing I conquered it. Again,
Hmm.
it's so sad to live life in indifference,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have to be that way. And martial arts doesn't have to be this body of indifference. It doesn't have to be this place where, I'm kind of getting better, but I don't really feel like it. And then you have so many people like, oh, I don't really feel like I, deserve my belt. What they're missing is that individual ability to have the teacher with them, showing them again, it's individual progress. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to do it differently.
That's right. And this is great martial arts advice and a great epic journey that I was on. I cannot thank you and your wonderful family enough. I mean,
Absolutely.
you guys are so accommodating and so awesome and just so nurturing. And oh no, thank you, man. So could we tell our listeners how we could follow you, find you, or train with you even?
Yeah, I've actually kind of just recently started kind of opening up my doors for individual students. Um, in the beginning of May, I'm pretty booked. I do have Sean Kanan coming back here later on this month. So we'll be doing more stuff. You guys can, stay tuned for that. But yeah, just direct message me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Um, Definitely have my material up on multiple sites. And again, I will take anybody on. It's not about your background or where you're from or whatever. We'll work things out, and we'll make it happen, man. Again, this is for me. I want people again. This is my giving back, and I want people to realize that the martial arts doesn't have to be a struggle. It could be something life changing, and it could be something uplifting, and it could be something that literally, again, like you said, changes you. So
That's how I feel. And, I could definitely vouch for this is that I experienced it and there were trials and tribulations, but it
sure,
was very, very smooth. It was like,
yeah,
it's not like one of those things where you're burning yourself out. Like, I have to be honest, I'm 42 years old. I smoke cigarettes. I drink.
right, right,
I do all types of crazy stuff, nothing too crazy, but, and eat. Okay. So what I'm going to say is my diet isn't, necessarily the best diet on the
sure,
planet. I eat red meat
sure.
all the time, you know, and I was able to keep pace and
You
have a
did,
great time. Yep.
and that's what's so important is you showed yourself that even though you have all of these inequalities you just brought up, that didn't stop you a tad bit from getting to where you were going. And again, it's that inner power and it's that inner focus, and it recharges you. It gives you this spark, this fire, and it's important. Again, for every student that comes and sees me, you're going to leave with a fire. You're going to leave with
Oh
a
yeah.
flame, going to be uplifted and nurtured and told you can instead of you can't, and pay me your next bill, and so you can get your ridiculous belt that means nothing. I don't want that. I want
Yeah.
people to come and realize this can be a fast situation. It doesn't have to be hard. And that my type of martial arts training is literally uniforming to every individual, uniforming to every person, and just doing it only the way it will work for them, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And you mentioned Sean before talking. I think it was a private conversation about how he felt better, when he
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah.
And dude, after a day, I felt amazing. Hey, ask
Yeah.
my wife.
Yeah. you know, and again, man, if that's what we all need in life is that inner power, that strength and that ability to recharge and get focused. And if it changes you, stick with it. what ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm healing. I'm gonna take a break until what's today, Wednesday. So I'm thinking Monday I'm gonna hit it back. And dude,
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
already see the weight coming off, and it's I just feel better. My joints aren't sore, but it's like when you get to a certain age, like I'm 42, so
yeah,
like your body will tell you what to do. But
sure,
your mind could also make you go through things that you never thought your body could do. So
absolutely.
there's a balance there. And
And there has to, and
yeah.
if I could leave this conversation with anything, there has to be that balance, that mind
Hmm.
body balance. When
Yep.
one's in control of the other, and it's running amok, nothing works, man. And it's again, everything has to be in unison. That one concept.
Right here.
Yeah,
Everything's got to be centered. Adam, I can't thank you enough, brother. This was amazing. And I appreciate everything that you guys did for
for
me
sure.
and everything you're doing for martial arts and
Thank you, man.
everyone and what you're trying to do for yourself, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep it going, brother. I'll talk to you
Will do,
soon, man.
man. Good to see
Yep.
you, brother. Have a good
Absolutely,
day.
dude.